Hello everyone. This afternoon I'm going to do a complete meditation. This is my go-to meditation. The goal is to find a sense of peace and bliss, a sense of integrity, to ground myself. And I have practiced this for several decades, and so I would suggest that you just find a quiet place. Find a place maybe with some beauty. I just came from the beautiful outside, so I already feel a sense of calmness, but you don't really have to worry about that. You can do this anywhere. On a subway commute, in a car commute, you can start some reflection. Obviously, pay attention to the road, but you can find calmness, and that will help you stay focused. So the first thing I would suggest is just counting 5 breaths slowly, and do this trying to create a sense of peace and equanimity within your own spirit. Breathe in 1 and out, and I count as I breathe in. 2, that's the second. 3, breathe in. 4, breathe in. 5, breathe in. And already I feel a sense of calmness, and isn't this wonderful? So I don't have a goal, an explicit goal, that I'm going to try to see or experience divinity or God's nature. I am just trying to explore and find. So the first step is the sense of peace. The sense that I don't know exactly what I may believe. I don't know how much grounding there is for it. I don't know the absoluteness of belief, and I worry about that. So how can I meditate without knowing? But no, just try to create that sense of peace. And that would be the path that you follow. Because all this philosophy, religious study, which is important, worship, which is important, all this mix of stuff may not resolve the issues, but maybe if you go forward with peace. So focus on creating a sense of peace and positivity in this present moment. And so we've done that for 5 breaths. Let's try next the idea of bliss or spiritual happiness that knows no limit, potentially infinite bliss. Because peace can get a little boring. Peace is just this equanimity, and there's something more that we're looking for, and that could be a sense of bliss, a sense of happiness, a sense of joy, a sense of contentment. It doesn't have to be super exciting, but just a sense of bliss. And in meditation we can learn to create that, and that's very powerful, even just a small amount. And this will help regulate our sense of bliss throughout the day and at other times. So let's focus on peace and bliss now. So focus on this, creating this sense of happiness as we breathe. How wonderful it is to breathe. If you have serious allergies or any sort of lung condition, you know that being able to breathe freely is wonderful. And be connected with the body. So peace and bliss. And we're already almost at 5 minutes, and it is just very calming. So we have peace and bliss. Sometimes life presents us with times where we can't meditate, don't want to meditate. don't see the purpose of it. We don't want to exercise. We don't want to eat right. Life is not about this peace and bliss that we can experience, and then it doesn't necessarily follow over into actual life. So what we need is a sense of doing it anyway, and I call that will. The willpower, the willingness. Perhaps willingness is better than willpower, which is too dominant and just get through, but perhaps just a sense of willingness to do what we need to do. And in meditation, that can be a problem too. It's like we don't want to start. Exercising, we don't want to start. But just we'll focus on, yes, that is a great lesson in life. It's about personal responsibility. So let's pause for 5 breaths, this idea of will. And I actually lost count there. I don't know if I did 5 or 6, but that's okay. I'm sort of focusing on presenting this to you. Then there's still something else. There's a big thing missing, and that's love. This we can have peace, we can have bliss, this happiness, and we can do what we need to do even when we don't want to do it. But love. So think about love of self, love perhaps of God, the love I have for nature, the love I have for my children, and for special people in my life. That sense of love ties this all together. So those will be the 4 things the 4 concepts, the 4 ideas that I will work with in meditation. Peace, bliss, will, and love. And we will see them in many permutations. So take 5 breaths just on this concept of love. And you can take these 5 breaths at any time during the day. Just find a few moments to do that. And there was one somewhat scientific study that said those very small meditations throughout the day can be very effective. Another thing that I found effective is not even using these 4, but just the idea of feeling positive. Just create this state of positive feeling in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your emotions. This sense of positivity. Get used to being able to generate that feeling, and then just take your 5 breaths with a sense of positivity. So that is the first step in this meditation. And it is wonderful to have this calming effect and this positive effect, this energizing effect, and this peaceful feeling that makes you realize you can go on and do wonderful things. And now let's continue with taking these 4 ideas, these 4 concepts of peace, bliss, will, and love, and applying them in a further way. So the first thing I would say is that peace is the polar opposite of anxiety. And I've come to realize anxiety is a part of life, almost a permanent part. And so we in meditation can recognize what is giving us anxiety. And we can have anxiety about religion as well, because we don't perhaps know exactly what should be believed. And we have anxiety of mortality, of sickness and immortality. So we can pause and have a sense that we can have peace as an opposite, as a counterbalance to this anxiety. Secondly, bliss is sometimes hard to experience, but we can find times of ecstasy. And ecstasy means standing out of. So we can stand out of ourselves. We can stand out of our anxiety. So we can pause for a moment and think of bliss as ecstasy, as an ability to stand out of the things that aren't positive. And most people will do this with some sort of chemical or behavior or addictive behavior. But we can try to do this in healthier ways, not just in meditation. I love hiking, and that can be very ecstatic for me. And then the next idea is will, where we want to do something, but then also we don't want to do it. But the positive side of that is creativity, where we can make something new and use our creativity, and that itself can become ecstatic, and that can mean many different things. Creativity is any sort of activity in which you can a little bit lost in, and you can make something really nice, something that you enjoy. And fourthly, our fourth idea was love. And the Christians talk about agape, this universal love, and the Buddhists talk about compassion. It's one of the key ideas or virtues of Buddhism. So compassion, we can pause and take our 5 breaths with the idea of compassion. And compassion means empathy with the suffering of others. And it's a beautiful thing. But they also have this idea of mudita, that you can co-experience the joys of others. So not just have a co-emotion with their suffering, this compassion, but actually a mudita, a shared joy with the joys of other people. So now we have the peace, bliss, will, and love, and now we have it in terms that have gone forward of non-anxiety, of ecstasy, of creativity, and of compassion. Now I would like to expand these ideas of peace, bliss, will, and love to create a larger circle for our meditation. And we can think of what peace would mean for all of humanity. Such an important goal. How do we get to peace? How do we get to the opposite of war? How do we get people to stop hurting each other, to stop killing each other? And part of that is for all of us to be brought up with a sense of peace, being able to work together. And we can take several breaths with that idea. And when we expand the idea of bliss in terms of the whole human community, we can think of all the amazing, wonderful things that people can do together that create enjoyment. Just the universe is not just us meditating in a room, but it's children playing in the water, adults taking care of their children, a farmer growing food in the fields, a woman out in the fields, a woman cooking, a man cooking, enjoying a good meal together as family and friends. So that sense of bliss and happiness, a whole village, a whole town, wonderful things that humans can do with cities. And that provides so much happiness. We are social beings deep down. So I don't think we are just monks or hermits sitting in our private meditation all the time. We are social beings. And that leads into human creativity, the great things that humans can do. Think of the great artworks of the world, the great architecture and art and gardens, and how human beings have worked to create a world where we can enjoy the world even more. So that human creativity, that's a wider circle than just our individual creativity, and we can appreciate the great works of others. And love, compassion, mudita, all of these relate to how do we interact with others. So there's this great sense of love that we can radiate out to the whole human community. And we realize in our meditation that millions of people on earth are also entering this state of mutual care and concern for all people. And so that's the third round of using these ideas of peace, bliss, will, and love that relate to the human community. So we expand the circle. And we can expand the circle one more time to the universe or towards an ocean of peace and bliss. And this may be something that is the idea of God or divinity or spirit, and you can take this however you wish, but I think it's a natural progression to expand this. And again, I'm not giving a dogma about this, but this is an experiential way to experience what God might be or what the universe might be. So this idea of an ocean of peace, an ocean of peacefulness, that's just infinite, that's just so much larger than us on this planet. And I find that a very calming thought, whether it's the universe or our inner Buddha nature or divinity or God. And just like us, peace is only part of it, so there's peace and bliss. So we can think of this ocean of bliss, this ocean of peace, that we can sort of feel in a way. And ultimately, I think this is where all our ideas and religions are grounded in, this potential to experience this peace and bliss. And many Buddhists define nirvana in this way. Nirvana can literally mean the extinction of the flame of the desire of the individual ego, but it also, nirvana means infinite peace, infinite bliss. And I think Westerners, with the Western religions, think of God in heaven. So heaven is a place where there's no sin, there's just peace. And bliss, because it's heaven. It's a wonderful place. But for us, instead of thinking of a heaven as a place we will go to in the future, think of now as peace and bliss as God's grace in our soul now, or our ability to experience this or possibly see this. So it's a state of being that we can achieve, a little vision of this. So we have in bliss, and there's a natural progression. We've expanded the circle, And now we have an ocean of peace and bliss. And now we can think of the third category of creativity. And that is where we can think of this idea of God as the maker of all things, the creator of the universe, the source of the power of being, the source of the spirit, the source of the energy. And we see that this perfect ocean of peace and bliss could create a universe. And we are part of that universe. So this creative God created us. So that's the connection that we can feel in our most intimate core, is that we are created. And I'm not saying this as an intellectual proof of the existence of God. It's a possibility. It's something we can see as a possibility. And we might ask, well, why would God create if God's this perfect ocean of peace and bliss? Well, love doesn't have a reason. Love is gratuitous. Love is freely given. There's no reason for love. And we know that even as human beings. So this possibility of this ocean of infinite love, our fourth category, this infinite bliss, this overflowingness, overflows into the creation of a universe, ultimately a mystery. But I think many of the religions are right when they define this ocean of existence, this infinite being, as love, as really love is the best name for the divine. That perhaps this universe of love is what is ultimately real. And I can see that as I've started from expanding the circle. I've worked to this point where I see this is the best way to think of or experience the divine. And to just be experientially with that. There's of course a lot more that can be said about the nature of God, about other people, about creativity. But just to be able to reach this expanding circle of infinite love, whatever that means. I don't have a sense of exactly what that means, but it must be so much more than what we experience of love. And just to rest there in this meditation, and go back and think about if this is true, if we can see this, that this makes us want to bring more peace into our lives and the lives of others. So I'll take 5 breaths. And then I can go back and just focus on one of the first 4. I want a greater sense of peace, if I want to feel what love means in my life, if I want to improve my willingness to do things that I find difficult to do, to make changes in myself, to appreciate the creativity of others, to work on my compassion for others, my mudita for others, my appreciation of their good luck, their fortune. I can do that. And I try not to go into making this definitive and absolute, to make it an absolute. as if to say there is an ocean of bliss, there is an ocean of love, and then I can know that as a fact. That kind of thinking tends to get me back to where I just look at all the different philosophies and experiences I've had, and they're somewhat contradictory, and then I have a little bit of anxiety about it, if it's even true. And that's natural. And then I go back to, well, just make peace the path. Just put that aside and just make peace the path. So I think this kind of meditation is valuable because it can get us, by expanding that circle, into an experiential state of mind, and where it's not about knowing what is absolutely true, but just being able to experience the possibility of infinite peace and bliss, creativity and love, and improving our own sense of peace and contentment, happiness and bliss, willingness and willpower, and love and compassion.